The following program is brought to you by Arlington Community Media, where we tell your story. Continuing troubles at Minuteman. The standoff continues between the principal of Minuteman High School and his boss, the school superintendent. This after the school committee met behind closed doors and decided to place the school superintendent on administrative leave. Town Meeting 2023 is now history, and some compromises are struck. We have reaction from a proponent of one of the most talked about articles, which attempted to tap the brakes on any new artificial turf in town. And we take a ride with Arlington's new animal control officer. Now that Courtney Wilson knows her way around town, she's catching up with some two-legged folks who are unaware of some important four-legged rules around town. ACMi News starts right now.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered, giving you stories that count from people who care. Reliable, trustworthy, dependable. This is the nationwide award-winning ACMi News.
The superintendent of Minuteman Regional Vocational Technical High School in Lexington is currently on administrative leave. This in the wake of the uproar regarding the planned dismissal of the school's principal and scores of other complaints. Hello, I'm Katie Chang.
And I'm James Milan. Thanks so much for joining us today. The school committee made the decision to place Superintendent Dr. Kathleen Dawson on administrative leave on May 11th in a closed-door session. Once that decision was made, the committee shared it in an email to Minuteman families on Friday, May 12th. Then, the email was reposted as an attachment to an online petition that calls for Dawson's removal. The story is clearly ongoing and can change by the day. So, where do things stand now? Well, here's ACMi's news director, Jeff Barnes.
The Minuteman High School committee late last week announced it retained independent legal counsel to investigate allegations against Superintendent Dr. Kathleen Dawson, who recently received a unanimous vote of no confidence from the Minuteman Faculty Association. That's the first time the association passed a vote of no confidence against a school superintendent. Now, tensions have been flaring up here recently at this public technical high school. Many teachers, staff, students, and parents have been very vocal in their criticism of Dr. Dawson, who has served as school superintendent now for only 11 months here. And this story reached new heights when Dawson chose not to extend the contract of the school's very popular principal, George Clement, who's been with the school since 2009. Many students, staff, and parents say Principal Clement has been nothing but a positive influence on this school and has created a healthy and very fruitful learning environment by connecting with students, teachers, and parents over the years. Meantime, Dr. Dawson says she looks very much forward to working with the investigator assigned, saying, quote, "I have always put the interests of students first, and I have not intentionally engaged in any misconduct." But according to the Faculty Association, the superintendent has ignored the concerns and recommendations of the educators who dedicated their careers to the district, and that the lack of respect from the school superintendent started at the beginning of the academic year and continued through the year, despite repeated efforts by staff to improve things here at the school. On Monday, May the 8th, you may recall more than 100 students staged a walkout to demonstrate their loyalty to Principal Clement. And obviously, this controversy is far from over. The next school committee meeting is set for Thursday, May the 25th. And this meeting is set to be in person, and it'll start at 6:30 in the evening. The chair of the committee stated that since this is a personnel issue, there will be no further comment on this matter at this time. Meanwhile, ACMi News has reached out by phone to the offices of Principal Clement and Superintendent Dawson for comment numerous times, and we have yet to hear back. That's the latest from here. For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnes.
So far, the petition to oust Dr. Dawson is closing in on 1,600 signatures. If anything changes in this ongoing story, you'll find the latest information on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ACMi News. Again, that's facebook.com/ACMi News, one word. The 2023 annual town meeting is now history. The 7th session took place Monday, May 15th, when the remaining 25 articles were covered. Among those articles, appropriations for a pilot compost collection program, and Transportation Infrastructure and Community Preservation Act funding, which would include money to plan a mountain bike track at Hills Hill. You'll find a summary of Town Meeting 2023 on the town website, arlingtonma.gov/townmeeting. Again, for all the results of Town Meeting, just go to arlingtonma.gov/townmeeting. Again, one word.
As we reported last week on ACMi News, on Monday morning, May 8th, the very day Arlington Town Meeting was poised to debate the controversial warrant Article 12 to delay the town's plans to build a new artificial turf field, plans for Poets Corner collapsed. That morning, the financial backer of the proposed Poets Corner land swap, Belmont Hill School, withdrew from the project, effectively ending it. The school said fiscal concerns and a change in expansion plans were responsible for its decision, but the timing of this withdrawal was significant. Article 12 was narrowly struck down at town meeting on May 8th, but those opposing artificial turf succeeded in getting a committee approved to study artificial turf and the potential dangers it may pose because of the forever chemicals turf contains and the dangers to humans and wildlife forever chemicals have. ACMi News talked to Jordan Weinstein, who was a long outspoken critic of artificial turf in Arlington. He says sooner or later, the public will catch on to the potential risks turf has over natural grass.
The way I think of it is kind of in the same way that you might look at the history of how popular opinion, public opinion, and finally government regulation came into play when it came to asbestos or cigarettes, the tobacco industry, or lead in gasoline. There was a long period of time where the science was just being developed in the early stages in the tobacco fight. And there were scientists then saying, look, there is definitely a connection. And there was a struggle between the industry that was making huge amounts of money and the scientists trying to control public opinion and control how the public. And interestingly enough, I think that when the tide turns, what does turn the tide isn't so much government regulation, because I think in this country, as compared with the European Union, for example, in this country, regulators, the regulatory agencies are very weak, I think. And the industries, because they're so vastly rich, and spend so much money on lobbyists and other ways of going about it. Many of them have actually what's called captured the regulatory industries. So it's very difficult for these things to be controlled via government. What happens is we're in a litigious country. And generally what happens is a group of people in some kind of major class action suit sue, they lose and lose and lose until they finally win. And that is, I think, the point at which the floodgates open in this country, and you see a real turnaround in public opinion and also in the ability of regulators to crack down on these industries. And frankly, I think that's what it's going to take.
Arlington's Director of Recreation, Joe Connolly, a proponent of artificial turf and the Poets Corner deal, tells ACMi News, with the moratorium struck down, that still leaves potential options on the table. And he says he welcomes the study.
Arlington now has a new prevention services manager. Town leaders say Anna Martin will work on several projects related to substance use prevention in youth and adults and support for individuals and families struggling with substance use disorders. Martin's starting date was May the 1st, and her responsibilities include obtaining funding for substance use prevention and treatment and coming up with solutions. Prior to this job, Martin worked for Boston Medical Center, taking part in a study to reduce overdose deaths. Before that, she worked as a research assistant supporting the Healing Communities Study grant, and she was an administrative assistant at Beth Israel Lahey. Anna Martin holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from William & Mary, and she says that she enjoys using this knowledge in her work with substance use prevention.
You'll be able to save a little cash while parking downtown for at least part of the summer. While all single-space parking meters in Arlington Center are being replaced, the meters will not require you to pay. This includes meters on Mass Ave between Franklin Street and Jason Street, Broadway between Franklin Street and Webster Street, Broadway Plaza, Alton Street between Broadway and Belton, Medford Street, Pig Spengler Way, adjacent to the Unitarian Church, and finally Court Street. This doesn't apply to the municipal lots where vouchers are purchased from kiosks and displayed on your dashboard. This policy will be in effect until all meters are replaced, which is expected to be completed by July 1st. For more information on parking in town, just go to arlingtonma.gov/parking. Again, that's arlingtonma.gov/parking. Arlington's gas utility company recently reported that there were 181 natural gas leaks in town as of March of this year. That's 10 more leaks than were reported at the end of 2022. We took a drive through town to survey some troubled spots. Town leaders say one is considered a large volume gas leak. 8 leaks were classified as more dangerous, which is why the Select Board and Arlington's Gas Leaks Task Force are calling for National Grid to repair their large volume leaks ASAP, since they're harmful to health, climate, and public safety. Early this week, we talked to David Morgan of the task force for an update. He was not shy in telling us National Grid is moving too slow.
It's true, we know conditions are bad, but getting the report from National Grid that they're getting worse is a sign that we're moving in the wrong direction. National Grid is trying to run around and catch these leaks playing whack-a-mole, but the old system just keeps sort of getting worse. Kind of underscores the need for folks to move off of gas entirely.
How satisfied are you with National Grid's response to this? I understand that some of the leaks are dangerous. One is critical, from what I read.
I think, and the Gas Leaks Task Force agrees, that this is not a strong enough commitment from National Grid. We would very much like to see them commit to repair dates before July of this year. That was what we had requested when the Select Board issued a resolution back in March. Our resolution was a request. That's more or less what we're limited to. I think it's very concerning that there are any leaks at all. There are immediate impacts to the climate. These are just emissions that nobody controls and will have long-term effects.
The Gas Leaks Task Force has an interactive map available on the town website. You'll find it at arlingtonma.gov/gasleaks. Again, that's arlingtonma.gov/gasleaks. And ACMi News heard back from National Grid in a statement via email. Quote, National Grid takes seriously our responsibility to our customers to safely maintain our gas network and our responsibility to our region to help mitigate climate change. Of the 14 large volume leaks that the Arlington Select Board called upon National Grid to repair by July 2023, currently 5 leaks remain to be eliminated. We are working with the Arlington DPW to obtain permits and to schedule repairs or main replacements for these 5 remaining grade 3 large volume leaks.
And Courtney Wilson is Arlington's new animal control officer. ACMi News caught up with her on her very first day on the job on March 27th as she was given a tour of her new beat. Now that she's been acclimated into the Arlington scene, we asked if we could briefly ride along with her to see what it's like to be Arlington's new animal control officer. We went to Minuteman Rocks Park, Thorndike Field, and Spy Pond Park, where we learned people bending some rules move rather quickly when an Arlington animal control van shows up.
I love Arlington. I think last time we spoke, I was still learning, where everything is. I now know where the parks are. I spent 3 years working in Lowell.
How has that been acclimating to Arlington, given what the residents here are like as opposed to Lowell?
It's been amazing. They are so helpful, especially with wildlife, because a lot of the times if wildlife is injured or they're orphaned, they need to go to a rescue or a wildlife rehabilitator. And I've had calls where the residents have offered to drive. I've had a resident over by Robbins Farm Park, and we had a squirrel injured, and she drove it to Tufts, which is an hour away. So they've definitely been very helpful here and willing to help the wildlife and learn about the wildlife. So it's been great. It's definitely different, but it's been very helpful. definitely more, I would say more wildlife concerns here. In Lowell, there's a lot more loose dogs than here in Arlington. And if there are loose dogs in Arlington, most of the times they go right home. Where in Lowell, a lot of the times the dogs, weren't always claimed. Where here, the owners seem really responsible with licensing their dogs or microchipping their dogs. So the dogs typically go home quicker here. A lot of dog owners like their dogs, off leash in the woods, and unfortunately they can't be off leash in the woods. So just kind of getting that under control and just educating people on, leashing their dogs after 9 and where they can be. So that's definitely been my biggest, or my main focus and the biggest complaint or call, I should say, since starting in Arlington. So as we were driving by, we saw some off-leash dogs on Spy Pond Field. Obviously, we stopped to talk to them, just remind them that dogs should not be off-leash outside of the 6 to 9 morning hours. And especially, you just want to keep the dogs off the baseball field as well. Kids are playing out there. It shouldn't be holes dug up or, fecal matter from dogs left behind for the kids to, to step in. So yeah, we just want to keep them off the field. So I educated them on, the off-leash hours, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Now, when we pulled up, they were quickly leashing their pets.
Yeah. I don't think they wanted the conversation, but it's super important for me to be able to talk to owners and remind them of the, the leash law after the 6 to 9 hours. So yeah, they definitely, they weren't excited to talk to me, but I'm very excited to educate people on the leash law. I love it here. The people that live here are great. Everyone's been super helpful. The police department has been more than welcoming to me and very helpful to me as well. So I definitely am enjoying my time here so far.
Here is something we didn't know. Off-leash hours in Arlington are between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., and dogs are to be kept off baseball diamonds at all times. If you have any questions or need information, just call Arlington Police at 781-643-1212. Again, that's 781-643-1212, and don't forget, ask for Courtney. A former ACMi guest instructor has decided to take on a project that is much bigger than any one person. Marco Franzoni is a filmmaker who taught here at ACMi a few years ago. Now he's embarking on a project that is bringing smiles to the men, women, and children living a daily nightmare. Marco's one of the founders of the Mobile Circus for Peace, a traveling circus featuring Ukrainian and international artists entertaining thousands in West Ukraine. The mobile shows provide emotional relief and joy to the local communities in West Ukraine, sharing one of the oldest and most colorful forms of entertainment, the circus.
The idea is very simple. It's like we have a system of volunteers. They're usually professional. They're like lawyers, doctors, people that are doing regular jobs who live around the world, mainly in Europe, Canada and United States, but mainly in Europe. And they have skills. Like they can juggle, they can sing, they can play, they can put on a makeup and turn into different characters. And so they are engaged in the circus on a regular basis. And so we decided, let's bring all these people over and continue the life of the Mobile Circus of Peace. It's never safe, but somehow there's something that kicks in. First of all is the adrenaline. Adrenaline makes you think very sharp for bursts of time. Then when the adrenaline goes down, you're tired, and you have to be aware of that. But there's a system of exchanging adrenaline from different people. And this is sustaining the idea, the project, how we operate. What I see in these children's eyes, it's difficult to explain in words. There's a common joy from both sides, and I feel the gratefulness. I feel also that being able to do something meaningful. My idea of meaningful is to just make even 1 or 2 kids happy, or just put a smile on some mother's face.
Inspiration for their journey, and share a little bit our magic.
Marco will be traveling back to Ukraine this week, and ACMi News will be keeping in touch with him as he continues to bring what joy he can to that war zone. The Circus relies heavily on people who donate their time and/or money. If you'd like to help Marco and his team in this effort, go to their website, mobilecircusforpeace.org. Again, that's mobilecircusforpeace.org.
Did you ever want to know more about Arlington's world-renowned sculptor Cyrus Dallin? Besides going to the world-class museum in our own backyard at 6101 Mass Ave, of course, you can take a 1-hour-long guided walking tour of Arlington Center. Beginning Thursday, May 25th, you'll be able to experience the masterful public works created by Dallin for his adopted hometown. On these guided tours, you'll learn more about the Uncle Sam statue, Soldiers and Sailors Monument, and the Art Deco Arlington Co-op Bank. Everyone is welcome. Tours begin May 25th in front of the Cyrus Dallin Art Museum at 611 Mass Ave, and more tours are already on the schedule for the summer/early fall. Metered parking is available in the lot behind the building. This program is being offered in conjunction with Freedom's Way National Heritage Area's Hidden Treasures program, and suggested donations are $10 for adults, $5 for members and students. Children 13 and under get in for free. Just go to Dallin.org for more information. Again, that's Dallin.org.
And if you have yet to go to the Dallin Art Museum, now's the time. Pat McCabe, the great-granddaughter of Cyrus Dallin, just donated nearly 300 original letters of correspondence between the master sculptor himself and his family members. Curator Heather Lavelle says the museum had copies of some of these letters, but now they have a first-hand account from the master artist himself. This collection comes after nearly a quarter-century of collecting, transcribing, and carefully storing this slice of Arlington Americana.
So approximately, I'm thinking about 1988, my mother came to visit me. I live in that time in Newport, New Hampshire. With her, she had a box. And in the box, I discovered these letters, the original letters of Cyrus Dallin, starting in 1880, once he came here to the Boston area to start work. And there were letters home. And obviously, his mother must have saved them. And eventually, they came down to my grandmother, who lived across the street from the Dallins, and then to my mother. So when she brought them to me, I started at that point transcribing the letters and literally have been working on it for a long time.
Arlington is very fortunate to have this museum in its backyard. To learn more about the museum, just go to their website, Dallin.org. Again, that's Dallin.org.
Dozens of women-owned businesses made camp at Whittemore Park on Saturday, May 6th. Just in time for the beautiful spring weather. This Boston Women's Market works year-round to make way for founders and artists of all kinds, from woodworkers and candle makers to illustrators. All of these businesses you see here are women-owned and operated.
So today, Boston Women's Market is in the center of Arlington in Whittemore Park, and we're here with over 20 women-founded small businesses, makers, and artists. So Boston Women's Market creates selling opportunities and learning opportunities for women-founded small businesses throughout the New England area. So we pop up with maker markets all around Boston Metro throughout the year in support of them to help them get new customers, get marketing, and of course sell their goods. So we'll actually be back in Arlington and Whittemore Park on July 22nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just come out and support your local small businesses.
So if you missed it, as you just heard, you'll get a second chance. The next Boston Women's Market is in Arlington, will be July 22nd from 11 to 4 p.m. at Whittemore Park. For more information, just go to the BWM website, bostonwomensmarket.com. Again, that's bostonwomensmarket.com.
And May 25th, 2023 is National Tap Dance Day. Bet you didn't know that. To celebrate, one of the world's greatest tap dancers will be performing live on the Regent Theater stage. Experience a special celebration of National Tap Dance Day with legendary tap dancer, choreographer, author, and master teacher Brenda Buffalino. The show is called Blue Heron Flies, and it startles me out of my slumber. And it takes place Thursday, May 25th at 7 p.m. Thelma Goldberg, the director at the Dance Inn, says Buffalino does it all: jazz, tap, singing, poetry. She even composes her own music. Buffalino is considered a trailblazer in the renaissance of tap dance in the 1970s and 1980s.
Coming up on May 25th, Thursday evening, we have a celebration of Brenda Buffalino, tap icon, 85 years old, celebrating what might be her farewell tour, she's describing it as. She has been a trailblazer in the world of tap dance since the early 1950s and 60s when she moved to New York City and met up with Honey Coles and many of the other old hoofers. And she's going to work with Joe Fonda on bass and Paul Aslanian on piano, two musicians she's collaborated with over very many years. She's known for her contributions to tap and helping it during the years of the tap revival, which happened in the late 1970s and early 1980s. She and several other women tappers brought some of the old hoofers out of retirement and produced them and gave them opportunities to share their passion for tap dance.
Bye-bye, Mr. Blackbird, where somebody waits for me. Sugar sweet and so is he. So long and farewell, Mr. Blackbird.
I think tap breeds collaboration and critical thinking and problem solving. One has to think how to connect this phrase to another phrase. I think it's one of the most important activities a young person can do, or an old person. I actually have 50 adults in my tap company, ranging in age from the early 20s to the 80s. Tap dance is good not just for the body and the spirit, but also for the mind.
Incidentally, Thelma Goldberg has a dance studio downstairs in the Regent Theater if you'd like to learn how to hoof it yourself this summer. Goldberg's number is 781-863-5360. And to learn more about Brenda Buffalino's upcoming performance, just go to the Regent Theater website, regenttheater.com. Again, that's Regent Theater with a TRE at the end.com. And that'll do it for us this week here at ACMi News, and we thank you a lot for joining us. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Katie Chang. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.